some private high schools that kind of are associated with Hesston College, like in Iowa and things like that. We've done that in the past. Well, obviously we can't do that this year. So we reached out to, we've reached out to those schools that are a little bit in distance, and then also schools that are around here that normally we haven't worked with in our community. So I think it was 11 to 15 schools or something like that we reached out to. We had 8 financial aid nights. And for each one of those, I would do a small presentation, and then we would break out into breakout rooms and do individual financial aid completion with those parents that signed up. That has worked really, really well for us. It's amazing how many people are attending those, in that it's because they can do it from their house. So we may continue to do some of this past this year, who knows? But like tonight, for example, we're helping with Newton High School, where normally we would go into their library and be there during their parent-teacher conferences. Well, we can't do that this year. So we've set up, me and my associate we have about 4 or 5 meetings each of us tonight, and we'll break out those about every half an hour. And so it's worked really well for us as far as the high schools go. For our on-campus, our students are here on campus. They will be leaving at Thanksgiving and finishing up the semester, the last week and a half or whatever it is, remotely. But we will have more of a push of that more in February when we push those for returning students.
Thanks, Dory. Okay, gang, let me know if anyone else has anything to share or any unique ideas about FAFSA launch for 21-22. Danielle from Johnson County did share in the chat that they're hosting a virtual financial aid night tonight. And they have lots of the area high schools that they reached out to and to all their students, and having them register to do 30-minute increments. So sort of similar to what Dory said, through Zoom and the breakout room feature. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes for you guys. You'll have to report back if it's working well, and let the rest of CASPA know too, just in general of how that goes, and if that's something maybe across the state that other schools can be doing. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions? Want to share what your school's done for FAFSA launch? A little quiet right now, but I have to learn to be patient. Okay. I'm guessing, and you can put in the chat too, that a lot of you have started pulling in ICERs. Some of you maybe haven't yet. But here we are somehow already November 10th. So I'm going to guess a lot of you have probably started. Well, we sped through the first quarter, which is good because we had a delayed start. So we're right on time right now. So we'll go ahead and get to the second quarter. And that topic is engaging staff during COVID-19. So we'll start with the panelists in just a second, and let us know if you're working from home, working remotely, if your team is doing part home, part remote, how you're working right now. And then also just how you've been able to support and stay engaged with your staff while you were remote and currently if you're not remote. And this time we will start with Melinda.
Well, we are not remote. We are fully staffed, 3 full-time, 2 part-time. And I guess what keeps us motivated is the work that we have to get done. It's never a dull moment. So we're just rocking and rolling. And, as far as motivating staff or engaging them during COVID, we're very flexible in my office if people do need to, like, for instance, our school district just went a little bit hybrid. So I have a staff member who does have children in the school district. So she's going to work part-time at home, part-time in the office. So we're very flexible. I think that's really something that I've learned as a supervisor, is to be flexible. And then not only that, but just keep telling them that they're doing a great job. And again, the work is what the students and the work just keep us plugging along.
Thanks, Melinda. Dory, I'll let you go next and talk to engaging staff and how things are at Heston currently.
We are, well, there's only two of us, so we're both here. Actually, our whole staff is all on campus working. So all faculty and all staff. Obviously, as things are ramping up with COVID right now, there are more people that are working from home. We have that flexibility as well. We're just trying to communicate. We communicate a lot on campus through Zoom meetings and Google Chat and Hangouts or whatever. We do a lot of meetings that way. We don't really go all into one meeting room like we used to. So it's a lot of online, but honestly, it's been working really well. We all wear masks. If we're in our offices by ourselves, we can take the mask off, but it's been everybody's been really diligent, and I would just say our campus is doing really well as far as controlling the COVID on our campus. So we're really proud of that. We are a small campus, so please take that into consideration, but our students are doing a great job. Our faculty is doing a great job. Our staff's doing a great job. So we're feeling pretty confident in that. I don't know once Thanksgiving rolls around, I think we may do a little bit more remote, maybe one of us and the staff will stay at home and one will maybe work here and vice versa. So for the most part, that's kind of what we're doing, and we're all here on campus.
Great, thanks, Dory. I'll interject a little bit here and let you know that I've been doing a presentation for the last, I don't know, 6-8 months, whatever we're at now, called Managing Remote Teams. And we've talked a lot about, in that presentation, we talk a lot about how to support your staff during these stressful times, even if you are in office now versus, it's really targeted the presentation to those that were working remotely, but just to make sure that the mental health of everyone is okay too, and to remember that they're people and not just workhorses, and check in. And I think knowing financial aid administrators, and especially Kansas financial aid administrators, I think we are a very supportive and touchy-feely kind of group that really does care about the emotional well-being of everyone, not just our staff and our students, but just don't forget that there could be some people really struggling just emotionally from the COVID-19 pandemic and from the situation that they're in. Mary, do you have anything else to add or share on how KCK is doing with managing their teams, engaging staff?
We were very fortunate. One of the best things probably, if anything is good about this, is we all got the most upgrades, got laptops. We all found out how to work at home and that we can do it, and we all have the tools for that now. So we were all remote until June 1st, and all of us came back, all staff. And that wasn't true for every office, so that was a challenge. When the financial aid office, you know how many offices we contact on our campus, and when you can't reach somebody in another office, it really makes it difficult because we don't know who's remote and who's not, and that is a challenge. But as of this week, as of yesterday, things are not getting much better here in Wyandotte County. And our traffic is really died down. We have very little traffic coming into our office because most of our students have been very good about calling, emailing, and just getting their stuff done. So this week we are half staff, half remote, and half we kind of trade off. I have 3 staff in the office beginning today and probably till the end of the year. And I think that gives them a chance to work remotely at their own pace and handle some family situations. We have been very flexible with our staff because we've had some family situations where there's been either children, parents, spouse who had some COVID issues, and we've even had a staff member too. So the college has been very good about, making sure people stay home the appropriate times, and we've made sure that we can communicate through Zoom, and probably one of the best things we've had to learn and to kind of navigate in. We have the Microsoft 365 Teams. And so we're putting a lot of our files on Teams. We communicate through Teams, and all of our meetings on our campus are through Teams. So even though we interact in our office, we usually don't face-to-face interact with other offices. We're usually doing in Teams or email. And we've also made a commitment, and I think you have to do that, that we have to answer our emails right away, you know, because people are waiting for the next step until you answer them. So, but it's been a unique, and it's worked really well for us.
Mary, are you doing your own team meetings then via Zoom, since part of the staff is out remotely and part is in the office?
Yes.
Or via Teams? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that I think, I don't know if Emporia is still doing that or not. Darcy, at one point, I know they were doing part of the staff in and part of the staff out. Is that same?
Yeah, we have one staff member that's remote all the time, and then we have cohorts. So 2 of us are in one cohort, so we have 1 week in the office, and then this is my at-home week, while the other cohort's in the office this week. So we just trade back and forth. The only people that are there all the time are Rhonda, who is our front desk person, and then our student workers. And so that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, just hearing at least a couple of schools and a couple, April from Wichita Tech indicated that they're doing something similar too. So I think that even though you're back in office, some of them are part-time, some of them are going back and forth. And I haven't heard very many schools, maybe except for Dory, since it's her and her compadre, but very many schools that are all in the same room at the same time with their entire staff. So I think that the remote environment has still been prevalent for a lot of us, and to keep kind of on that tune of keeping people engaged and making sure that it's not just you know, work, which we do that anyway because we're in financial aid. But I have a few things, a couple that to share on, you know, keeping those meetings, but also doing some meetings that are just maybe 15-minute sort of check-in, you know, meetings that are, you know, sign up on your Teams or your remote or your Zoom remote meeting and say, hey, for 15 minutes, we're going to get together and we're going to say, how's your dog? How's your kid? How's your spouse? How's your house project? How's your grandma? How's life? And just chat, and don't bring up work for 15 minutes, just like you would in the office with each other, you know, standing in the hallway and crossing each other's desks, since we don't have that opportunity anymore.
Crystal,
Another thing is to, yes.
Danielle has her hand up.
Oh yeah, well, I'll let her talk first then. Danielle, go for it.
I was just going to tell you all about what JCCC is doing. We're about 95% remote. So the only people on campus right now are people from the advising team. So that's 8 of us, and we're only rotating 2 people in the office per day because our student traffic is pretty low. 85% of our courses are online right now. So that has really lowered the amount of students who have to come onto campus. So we're only rotating 2 people per day in the office. So that means I only have to go in about 2 days a week. And then we're doing 15-minute check-ins on my team every week, just to talk about, kind of like you said, Crystal, nothing about work. And it's 15 minutes where they kind of just get to tell me how their lives are going. And then we have a weekly meeting with all of us. And then we still do our weekly all staff meeting every week as well via Zoom. One thing that's worked really kind of great for us is we got a Zoom room operational. So students can go to the financial aid website, click on the Zoom room, and they're immediately in with somebody. So we can serve you kind of like it's a virtual walk-in, which is kind of cool. It's not a lot of traffic, but we decided to keep it up. We see about 9 students a week via our Zoom room. And it's 10 to 3 Monday through Friday. And it's kind of cool. The people who staff the phones are logged into both Zoom and phones. And if someone pops into the Zoom room, they just log out of phones and see the person in the Zoom room. So that's a little bit about what we're doing.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks for sharing. And I think with your point on those team meetings with the check-in, and then your weekly team meeting, and then your whole staff meeting, One thing that's come to light, I think, for some people is that they're more sacred now than they were before. You know, when I was a director, I caught myself canceling meetings every now and then just because either A, I didn't think there was enough on the docket to make, you know, us all stop working for an hour and get together, or B, I had too much to do and I needed to use my time a different way. And hindsight, and especially now, I've realized that those need to be there just for the team camaraderie and kind of building that team up, especially if you have any new people or people that are struggling just to get through these times. And those team meetings are something that you should probably make more sacred now than you ever have before. Does anyone else? I saw Rachel, thanks for sharing. She said they have a work 2 days a week schedule every other day and rotate on Fridays. So similar to some others. Is anybody fully remote? I mean, Johnson County might be the closest. Does everyone, I think in Kansas, as far as I know, most people are back in office to some extent. To give you some perspective, I work with schools in Kansas and Colorado, and then a lot of the West Coast. And the West Coast is most offices are still 100% remote. I don't know that I've come across, I think I've come across one school in California that has some people in office, and otherwise they are fully remote out on the West Coast still.
Diane said that KBOR is fully remote.
Does anyone else want to share anything regarding staff during this time, and whether you're the director, manager, or a staff member? All right, we're gonna have a lot of time for overtime, so I'm hoping people are thinking of some hot topics to bring to us. Darcy, I am gonna call you out a little bit on the fly here. Yesterday, we had the private schools session, and Darcy had a trivia question that she threw out, and I grabbed it and used it for our halftime. And so right now it's at halftime. Do you remember what your trivia question was?
Yeah. So what Kansas University had a head basketball coach who was responsible for coining and making popular the phrase full court press?
Any guesses? Someone's got to guess. Throw it out there. Anything. Danielle says Fog Allen. I don't know. Fort Hays State.
No and no. This school is on their third name of their institution.
There's your hint.
Not ESU and not Pitt State.
They've had 3 different names in their timeline. Not K-State.
Barbara got it.
Oh, there you go.
It was Wichita State. Head coach, I believe his name was Gene Johnson, started there in 1928 when it was still Wichita University. And then he ended up going to another Kansas institution and was the head football coach. And I won't make you guys guess that, but it was Kansas Wesleyan. Okay, I'll throw out a non-sports trivia for a little extended halftime. What is the founding city of Veterans Day?
Oh, man. Couple Emporia guesses.
And they are correct.
Ah. Good trivia for tomorrow. There you go. Okay. We had a short halftime. Oh, I have someone trying to get in. Let me hit the waiting room. Okay. We'll move on to the third quarter. We don't have a lot of fouls or a lot of timeouts happening here. So you guys feel free to, well, don't foul me, but maybe call a timeout if you want to talk about something. The third quarter is supporting students during COVID-19. So this time we'll start with Dory. And Dory, tell us a little bit if you've changed or how your office maybe has had to change in 2020. I know we've all changed in some manners, but speak to how you've had to engage with students differently. We've talked a little bit with FAFSA, but is there other ways with documents and processes?
I'm sure, as we all had, obviously a lot more professional judgments this year, a lot more just parents and students wondering what additional help they can get, that type of thing. I think sometimes for me it has been more of a listening ear and more of a, well, this is something we can maybe do, and kind of work through some different things, and just actually literally being there to talk through what difficulties they're having. As we all know in financial aid, every single student that walks in the door is different, right? And they all have a different situation, and they all have a different dynamic. And we've had students that have tried to start on campus and then had left because they're just not, it's not going well or whatever, and just helping them to kind of adjust the time frame and what they can do, and if talk about even when they can come back, and could they come back in the spring, or so just we've had a lot. I've just dealt with a lot of just different scenarios, and for me it's been a lot of emails, a lot of talking, a lot of people dropping in, and just kind of working through some of those financial difficulties that they have and have arisen even since they've been here. We had a lot before we started this semester, but we've had some since then as well, and just trying to work that through, and what's the best for them. Is the best for them to stay? Is the best for them to end or whatever early, or wait till the spring? So that's kind of where I'm at.
Great, thank you, Dory. Mary, would you like to share also on supporting students during this time?
Yes, I think we've had, whenever students come to us with an issue, we tried to point them out in the right direction. And for us, it's been a lot of students who just can't manage the online experience. And sometimes they're dropping classes, want to withdraw, they want to give up, encouraging them to maybe just stick with one class, finding out what we can do to help. If it's a financial situation, we may talk to them about some emergency. We do have some emergency SEOG. We're looking at also more loans than we've ever done. And I think that's what some students are doing right now, surviving on student loans. So we're doing a lot more counseling on taking out loans and how much you want to borrow. And then we're also partnering with our counselors a lot more, referring people to go talk to counselors about their situation. And that, or also knowing our community resources too, what are around us. We have a food bank here that we've had to stock more than ever. So we've been doing some of that too. A matter of fact, yesterday, we gave out boxes of cereal and laundry soap to our students, with just a little message, it's time to do your FAFSA for next year. That's probably part of the first question. But students were so appreciative just on that, especially the students that live in some of our campus housing. But I think it's just listening and finding and trying to keep them at least with school in sight. If they have to withdraw, keep one class, letting them know that it's okay. I think we have a lot of students that are very nervous about their loans and their payments, and we're doing the best we can to explain that. And we are looking at maybe sending out some correspondence to our students who have borrowed loans, just to give them some information too.
Thank you, Mary. Melinda, it is your turn. Tell us how you are supporting students during these times.
I am definitely feel similar stuff, what Mary and Dory repeated, just extra communication to students about like if they're missing information to finish their FAFSA file, trying to just get a little extra communication out there to those students. In August, though, we launched a brand new app that's supposed to be used campus-wide, and so we use that for our contact tracing. And we have also been measuring our services in the financial aid office. And so based on some feedback, sometimes we can help students who are struggling with that. But overall, the app is just a one-stop place where students can get information, and it's kind of like Facebook for Garden City Community College. So I like the support system that the students are getting on there. The president might put a random thing out there, come by the president's office, you can get a prize, the first 10 people who read this or whatever. And then like our VP of instruction, I'm just seeing all this extra communication on our campus, and I really like that. I hope it continues despite the pandemic. In addition to that, as far as financial aid office, I definitely took advantage of all the Department of Ed flexibility that I could to lessen burden for students. So like the return to Title IV, if they do have to withdraw, like Mary said, I'm just asking, is it COVID related, having them write me a short sentence, and, helping them through some of that stuff. And then as far as the other thing I was going to say is just, letting them know that the professional judgment's available. We haven't really advertised it. I guess that's my question to the group is, are there colleges out there that actually put it on social media? Hey, if your family's income has changed. I'd like to maybe poll the group and see if that's done, because I keep on thinking I need to do that, but I don't want to open it up to where, we get inundated and we can't process regular stuff. So I was just interested in that.
Yeah, Melinda, that's a great idea. If somebody would like to share how the professional judgment world is going, and if you've reached out to students to sort of educate and solicit professional judgments, or if you're just kind of letting it flow as normal, feel free to chime in, some of you on this topic.
Melinda,
And you're welcome to talk too.
This is Darcy. I did put it out on social media last summer about professional judgments as well as the homeless for dependency status, just to kind of let people know that it was out there. And we revamped our professional judgment form, so it's actually an electronic form that they can submit now. I haven't done another push yet. But my intention with, last summer was for 2021. And we'll probably look at doing it again here in another month or so. Brenda had some really great ideas yesterday for getting PJ information out to students, if she wants to jump in.
Well, I'm trying to remember what I said yesterday, Darcy. I'm glad you thought they were great ideas.
Your influencers.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we work with influencers at Southwestern, so it's very clear that us alone, working alone, is not really enough to get people in to the office to do things. So we have been working with coaches, with advisors, activity directors, people who are influencers in the students' lives, faculty, to help get the word out about appeals, also about just getting people in when they sense that there is any kind of financial stress or strain. We're just really concerned that people are out there not coming in, because that's kind of how first gens behave. They don't always raise their hands when they're stressed out. And that's not even just limited to first gen behavior. I think my son did the same thing earlier this year. And he's a third generation college student, so he needed some coaching. And I know there are people out there who don't have that kind of support. So, but they'll reach out to coach. They'll reach out to their their faculty member they've connected to. So we make sure those people know also the process.
Thanks, Brenda. I think she brings a good point to maybe expand your reach across other offices on campus as much as possible. I know sometimes that's challenging depending on what your colleagues are like in different offices, but the more people that are on board, the better. And I can relate to the coaches and the theater sponsors and the music teachers and reaching out to anyone and everyone to help the students get the stuff done they need to do, whether it's an appeal, a verification document, professional judgment situation, just the FAFSA in general also.
I had one other resource I was going to share real quick with the group. I just shared it with my administration yesterday as maybe a link to put on our COVID resource page. The state of Kansas has a program that's helping people who might be evicted. Has anybody else heard of that?
Yes.
I think the governor tweeted it a couple of days ago, but it's a really good resource that your college might want to use. It's where they can get assistance from the state of Kansas so they're not evicted. So your non-trad people, or if you don't have housing on campus, it might be something that you want to, a resource you could share with your students who are struggling financially.
I think
That's
too
awesome,
that
Melinda.
one of the things we're going to do for the next school year, the next FAFSA, because I anticipate a lot more drop of income between the year 19 and 20. And so they'll already have that information. So we send a letter out to students when we get their ICER, if they don't qualify for a Pell Grant, that will say, if your income has dropped from 19 to 20, please contact us. And then from then on, we would send them our professional judgment. And I think we're going to get quite a few.
Haley, I saw that you had mentioned that you emailed students and directed them to your website. Did you get any traffic or questions from that?
Not really. I mean, not more than usual. We've also been pushing to, like, anytime we meet with students for next year, we've been reaching out to them as like promoting that as well. What we actually did for our website is Swift Student is a free service. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but it'll actually format the appeal letter for them. It's actually been really nice because it will pretty much provide everything you need except for the documentation. We've probably seen about a 20% increase in professional judgments. So I don't really think that's that much.
The one thing that
Thanks
we try
for
to,
sharing.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Nope, go ahead, Dory. Go ahead.
The one thing that we try to do too, as we were talking about just information to high schools, like I make that a special note in when I'm talking and doing a presentation to parents about doing the FAFSA and getting ready. I always talk about special circumstances and talk about things that they need to be aware that they can ask. Because like, I don't even know if parents even realize that they can ask, that something has changed in their lives. So I spend a good amount of time even just talking about that and taking questions if they need to, just educating, especially new parents that are new to the college scene, I guess, with their students. So that's just something that we try to make a special effort to educate even just incoming students.
We do too, Dory, at PCC. FAFSA nights, any new student that's coming on campus that we meet with, that we explain it pretty in-depthly.
And if you
Dory, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Darcy.
sorry. If you're not watching the chat, Barbara did share information from Kansas Legal Service in reference to what Melinda was talking about with evictions. So make sure that you check that out as well.
I actually
Thank
know
you,
quite a
Darcy.
bit about, yeah, I know, this is Brenda. I actually know quite a bit. I've got a renter and I'm working on that with him. You do need to know that the renter, not the rentee, but the rentor has to start the process, and it's pretty involved.
Thanks. I think that's a really great resource. So thank you guys for sharing it. I think that's something that a lot of the schools, that's a great idea, Mary, to put it out on the website and, you know, have that as a resource for your students. Dory, you triggered something that I don't know if this, you guys can tell me, Crystal, you're crazy. This is not an important topic right now, but I wonder if anyone would want to share or has any unique ways of doing those sort of orientations or those presentations, like at the beginning of the fall term with all your new freshmen, or those parent kind of interactions. Has there been any great turnouts, any great ideas on how to still continue on when you might not have families wanting to all come to campus at the same time anymore for those orientation type events? Is there any feedback on anything like that?
At Garden City Community College, our new student orientation had to be all online. And I don't know if it was that beneficial. It wasn't mandatory. So I feel like that is one thing that's lacking at our college.
The same at KCKCC, Melinda. We had it online, but it wasn't well attended. And I feel like that the students that did attend it, they didn't really need, they already knew and had their act together.
Yeah, we're just, I think this fall semester is just like a lot of students don't even know how to check their email yet here. And it's not a forcible thing. So we struggle with that. But like I said, the app that we implemented in August has helped a little bit. They have to turn on the app every day, and they have to use contact tracing to get into the classrooms for those who are still doing a hybrid or on campus. But, you know, half of our people might be online, so they don't have to turn on the app to do the contact tracing. So sometimes just, yeah, I think we're, you know, with COVID, we're definitely missing that personal connection face-to-face, Crystal.
Does anyone else, any participants or panelists, have anything that worked or they felt like it worked for attendance and ways to make them, you know, require it and / make them attend? Not everyone at once.
Well, we
I think
started
The answer is no.
when we started this semester, you know, you know, people were moving on campus, and I know a lot of schools are doing remote and things like that. But, and again, remember, we're smaller than probably all of you out there. But, you know, we had new parent orientation, and we usually have a big, you know, obviously opening weekend, like everybody probably does. But what we tried to do is do a lot of breakout, like in different rooms and different things, and allowing it to be a safer place, you know. So instead of putting 100, you know, sets of parents in there, we would put in a lot of different rooms and a lot of different parts of campus. We did a lot of information, obviously, prior to them coming, and we still do that. A lot of information and a lot of one-on-one, have you completed this, you know, that type of thing. I know there's a lot of information that's gone out before the second semester starts and things like that, but we were able to do some of that parent orientation on campus at the beginning of the school year by breaking it out into smaller areas around campus, and so making smaller groups. That worked pretty well, but a lot of parents didn't stay very long because they, you know, we kind of said it's time to go because, you know, we didn't want a lot of people there. But yeah, I think that worked pretty well. It's difficult, and it's but I think in this, what we're dealing with now is obviously we have a lot of updates going on our website and things like that, which I'm sure we all do. But just being able to direct them somewhere and to be able to answer those questions if they have them.
One thing that's really
Great,
helped us this semester is, you know, students won't call and ask for help until they need it. So when they call and say, I don't know how to get into my email, it's really hard when you're on the phone, you can't really show them. So we've had our IT department make videos of all these things that students need to do. And so we can connect them to a video like a YouTube, and they follow that, and it's really, really helped. This is how you log into WebAdvisor. This is how you start your Blackboard class. So, that kind of helps a little bit, and we've done a little bit of orientation that way too. So when they ask a question, we have a video of that topic that they can look at.
Thanks, ladies. Does anyone else have anything to share regarding kind of the orientation world and engaging your students that way? I will tell you, I don't know that I like this idea necessarily, but it is something that happens, and that was new to me. So there was a school in California. Now, it was a larger school and a fairly expensive one. However, they require orientation online. They charge for it and require it. So I don't know if the charge is what makes people come, but it is a required thing. I don't know, each school is a little different with how you do holds and what kind of holds you can do. There was an idea of putting a hold on the account until they get through the orientation piece. So those, I don't know, those are great ideas, but they're things that are out there that are happening in different areas of the nation at different schools as you start preparing for spring orientation. Okay, I am going to go ahead and move on to our fourth quarter. And then we'll still have plenty of time for any questions in our overtime section. So if you have any topics, any specific questions or broad questions, save those here for just a little bit later for the overtime. For fourth quarter, our topic is emergency funding process. And this is something that I don't have a ton of knowledge on because I did not have to live through it like all of you have. But I did try to keep up in the know just with NASFA News and other resources. So we'll go to our panelist experts though, and we'll start with Mary if you want to talk to how the emergency funding process has went and where you're at with everything on that.
Our federal funding was exhausted after the first week of school. We had more applicants than we had funds. But I really feel like the funding really helped a lot of students stay in school. The unfortunate part we're seeing now, and I'd be anxious to see what other schools say, because we had to give the federal funding directly to the student and it couldn't go through the student accounts. We're finding that those students, even though we sent them a letter that said they need to check their bill, they didn't pay their bill. So now we've got some students that got, $2,000 or $1,500 and they still have a $2,000 bill. So that's kind of that's what I'm dealing with like this week. Why do I have a bill? I got COVID money. Yeah, you got it and you had to pay your bill. So we're trying to help those students. Our college has been very good about not putting holds on students like we usually do. We're letting them work out a payment plan, those kind of things. I have designated part of my SEOG funds for some of those students that didn't get funded, but have documented situations that they've been impacted by COVID. But other than that, we're done with our funding until we get any more.
Thanks, Mary. Melinda, would you share how you've been using the emergency funding and how the process went for you?
Sure. So we got $641,000, and we spent about 80% of it on spring semester. We identified who was, quote, eligible, with that nice Department of Ed definition that we all struggled with. And then we did reserve 20% of our allocation we reserved for an application process. So we did a big dump based off of, who we deemed was eligible. And then we did open up an application process and those amounts varied depending on their situation or what they explained to us. So we as well exhausted all of our funding about the week before fall started. So right now, we don't have any funds to help students who are struggling with COVID. So we don't really even have institutional funding to help with that. I like Mary's idea about using some emergency SEOG. I have not done that. However, I'm seeing a huge decrease in our federal work study where people aren't working here on campus. So I'll probably use that flexibility. This year, I believe we can do 100% transfer between the two funds. So I need to, knowing now, just with some numbers recently, that my federal work study isn't getting used, I'm probably going to transfer and take Mary's idea on maybe doing some emergency SEOG, or maybe just, hey, here's a little extra for spring type of thing. So thanks, Mary, for that.
No problem.
And then, but we did have some institutional funding that we provided for last spring and this summer due to COVID. So we felt like we kind of took care of some students who might be DACA or international, weren't getting the federal emergency grants. Our institution did come up with some money for last spring and last summer. I just hope it doesn't get worse, or I hope that something's passed to where we get a little bit more money to help the current situation.
Thanks, Melinda. Dory, you're up.
Yeah, we used the majority of the money in the spring, and our CFO took the lead on that. I would say that for this fall, we have used some of our own institutional money to help, like Melinda said, with some of the students that could not get the federal funds. So international and other students too that weren't eligible. So, but majority of our monies went to spring students. So did not go to fall other than our own institutional money.
Thanks, Dory. And that brings us to the end of what we will call regulation. But do chime in if you have any comments or would like to speak regarding the emergency funds and the funding processes on your campuses. I'm going to have to apologize because my dog is right here in her crate and she's snoring right now. So you may hear that we're putting her to sleep. We are going to move on to overtime, which this is sort of a free-for-all. So do, if anyone has any questions that they came prepared with and want to start with those, raise your hand or, write it down in chat and I can say the question. So if you have any, there's got to be something out there that you're processing as we speak today that you're struggling on. So don't be afraid to share those out there. Oh, we got one from Jordan. Jordan says, do you send out information to the schools prior to your Zoom meetings? Are you referring to the high schools? Yes. So for those of you that do like Johnson County, and for Dory, for those of you that are doing those information sessions, are you sending out the Zoom information to the schools?
So what we did is we contacted the counselors and we said that we're offering this. We would, most of the time, the schools set up the Zoom information because they had all of the emails for parents. But if they didn't, then, and we set it up, we would say, we would set up the Zoom meeting, send it to the counselor sent it out with a Zoom link. That has worked really well, actually, that way, where we set it up, because then we can control the Zoom meeting, we can control the breakout rooms, and that's worked a lot better. So it's usually, we're willing to do this. We reached out to the counselors, we're willing to do this. We'll set up a meeting, and then we sent the link, and then they sent it out to the parents that were interested in being part of it.
Thanks, Dory. Does anyone else have anything to share on that? Danielle typed it in Oh, she's got a different question. Danielle, do you have anything to share on how you're doing the tonight, what you're doing with the high schools?
I was busy typing my question. I wasn't
that's
paying
okay.
attention. I'm sorry.
No worries. We were just talking about the
I'm not sure
um,
how it got set up. Ashley Jost really was the mastermind behind it.
okay,
So I'm not sure what she did for advertising, or
an
I just
outreach.
know that it went out and we signed up and we're doing it.
Gotcha.
Jordan, I'll
Hey,
share
that's okay.
what I did here at ESU. So I have had, because we used to, I mean, we've done face-to-face FAFSA completion nights for several years. So I also work with the high school counselors in the area, and I have checklists created that I send out and ask them to send to the students and parents, like create your FSA ID, and this is the information you need to have with you. So I had created a video that we sent out that they were supposed to watch prior to that evening. This year, since we had a little more flexibility, our IT department set up a Zoom webinar. And so the week before the FAFSA opened, we offered that, and we had it in English and Spanish, so they could log on to watch either version, and we recorded it. So if they weren't able to make it, and kind of just that introductory information, and as well as PJ information, kind of in generalities. And then also we did the Zoom FAFSA completion nights. And so they had each high school had a set time during an evening that we'd have staff online to do the breakout rooms with. And so that was also communicated through the high school counselors, and then they sent it out to their students and parents.
Thanks, Darcy. All right. Danielle did put a question around PJ. She calls it a random question, but I don't think there's any such thing. So I'm going to read it off, and if anyone has any feedback for her, please share. So she says, on their current PJ form, we have students if they qualify for any of the means tested benefits listed on the FAFSA. I've never adjusted for this ever. Is this part of anyone's PJ process for income loss? Does anyone ask about this during their PJ process? Normally they just adjust AGI taxes paid or whatever directly related to loss of the income. So does anyone have any feedback for Danielle on that question? For the means tested benefits?
This is Brenda, and I'll respond to that. This is intriguing. I don't do that specifically on the form, but that is a way to help a person become auto zero. And I did have a student recently that through verification, she was auto zero because she marked on the FAFSA incorrectly that she didn't file a Schedule 1. And then turns out she amended her taxes and she did have a Schedule 1. She has a business, a small business. And so rather than have to go through the mess of redoing that FAFSA and putting all the student information on there, I just asked the student, by the by, do you guys qualify for any kind of means tested benefit? And I listed them, and sure enough, they did. I collected the document, and we went on with life. But I think that's a really nice way to make a person, if they meet the income criteria, an auto zero.
Great. Anyone else want to chime in on that one? Danielle, did that help?
It did. I wanted to take it off the form, but I've been wrestling with it. So, because I've never heard of anyone doing this in all the trainings I've done, I've never heard of this being done, but I just didn't want to take it off for no reason. So I just wanted to get input and from others who have been in this longer than me, if that was a thing or not a thing.
This is Melinda. You know, I'm intrigued by your question, and I kind of want to add it to my form now because I feel like students might benefit. So I would almost, to me, we need to, reduce some burden and help students as much as we can. And it's something that now, with you bringing it up, I'm seriously considering adding it to my form because I think it could help students.
Because where I wrestle with it is that normally we don't really adjust assets, right? We kind of leave that alone on the FAFSA. It's very, very rare that I've ever seen a PJ done because of a loss of an asset. So I was wrestling with this because we're basically, if they can answer yes to one of those questions and they qualify for simple needs, we're taking out the assets entirely. So I was kind of going back and forth because we normally don't really adjust for assets. So why would we ask these questions to take it off? But then I go back and forth on it.
So yeah, if the PJ is meant to look at current or the last year, I'm not for sure which one you're looking at, if you're looking at current situation or 2019 or whatever. I guess my question would be, you know, if they did lose their jobs or they need food stamps or not food stamps, whatever, lunch program, then, you know, I would assume that they could say yes to that question. So that's, it's very interesting. I kind of feel like it's something that I might want to add to my form because we've never asked about that in all the years that we've been here. So I'm kind of intrigued by it.
Danielle, do you get the documentation then if they check yes?
We do if it's something they can document, but like,
Okay.
I'm not, I'll have to go back and look. I don't necessarily think we are asking for documentation on that, but we probably should be.
I would just stress, this is Brenda again, that remember, PJ is subjective and it's meant to be case by case. And so Danielle, the fact that you're conflicted on some people, I don't think is a bad idea. I'm not sure it would be 100% accurate to say that just because a person qualifies for mean tested benefits, or if you're looking at their PJ and you think assets might be a good idea to be ignored at this moment, I don't think you should just say, I'm going to always do it this way. I think you should leave yourself some wiggle room to make that call, because sometimes, you know, this mom that I was talking about, she makes cupcakes out of her house and sells them. I had no reason to believe that this was a woman hiding some massive asset or business asset out there. This is a woman who needed some help, and a family that needed some help. But I think there are also cases where you might have people who are hiding things, and I think you need to be prepared to explore that and give yourself the opportunity to say, no, I don't think we're going to include this.
Thank you.
Crystal, we can't hear you.
Thank you. And I said thank you, everyone. And I said we have a second PJ question related to parent in college and how does everyone do this? So Danielle said they normally would just add the parent to the number in college with documentation, but at a NAFSA webinar that they didn't recommend to do this. They recommended adjusting the AGI for the amount that the parent paid out of pocket. So that would reduce the AGI by the amount the parent paid. So does anyone want to share how they might add the parent in college via PJ?
This is Melinda again. We just do the number in college correction for the ISER. I've never heard of this before. Yeah, so I'm kind of intrigued by it as well. So do you do both, Danielle, do you think?
I've always just added to number in college.
Yeah.
But I have if any of you did that PJ webinar through NASFA, they give you a nice little list on how you actually perform the PJ, and they do not even put this on there as a way to do it. They say to reduce the AGI. And this is something else I go back and forth on, because when you do a hand calc and you put the number in college, you're essentially spreading that student's EFC amongst all the people who are in college. But when the parent does their own FAFSA, their EFC is already being attributed to them. So it's like they get it twice. But it's way easier to just do parent in college than it would be to reduce the AGI. So it's something I'm going back and forth on as well.
So at your webinar, they were leaning more towards just adjusting the AGI and not the number in college?
They didn't even put that as an option that you can do it that way.
The number in college?
Correct.
Wow. I have never.
Yeah, that sounds overly complex to me. And
I agree.
yeah, I think that I don't think you should take the what do I want to say? The absence of that advice as a dictate in any way, shape, or form. Or just remember that NASFA, and I'm speaking as NASFA chair here. NASFA is not necessarily the government, right? They're not the Department of Ed. They do best practices. And I would say NASFA is always, to be safe, comes down on a kind of a more conservative stance a lot of times. That feels to me like it's a little much. I will mention that to Dana.
Do you want me to email it to you, Brenda?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Because I mean, I prefer doing it the way we've done it, putting just the number in college. It's easier, it's more straightforward. So as long as we're all doing it the same way, I feel comfortable. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle, for the questions. While we're on PJ, does anyone else have a PJ situation or a question regarding that they'd like to run by the group before we move on? I don't see any hands flying up. Okay, we do have one more question in the chat so far. So please definitely let us know if there's more topics out there. Oh, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, it's about using EdExpress. Does anyone use EdExpress and print ICERs? The question is more on the formatting of it and how the ICER looks when you're trying to print it. Is anyone printing ICERs from EdExpress?
I'm actually talking to Suzette in private chat with her about this issue, so.
Oh, awesome. Well, speak now if anyone else has the same question, because otherwise they're on the sidelines doing their thing. Okay. I'm gonna pause for any other questions. We have time left. We can definitely end early and get your time back in your day, but do take this opportunity if you have any other hot topics or questions to address. Darcy, I did. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Crystal.
I was going to say I did attempt to give you co-hosting capabilities if you were able to.
Okay.
You can take over the screen if you're able to, or I can try to.
Okay. Going back to third quarter, I was just going to throw that out there. I know Mary said they were using Microsoft Teams. I don't know how many other schools are, but if you have access to bookings through Teams, that has been great for us. We don't have, we all have ability to answer phones from when we're working from home, but there hasn't been that much in-person traffic or even phone traffic. But what Bookings does is it allows a student to go out and schedule an appointment on your calendar. So they just see available times. And so we've got different topics like PJ, loans, study abroad scholarships. We just added one for FAFSA completion. So it's been very popular and we've had a lot of students utilizing it, and then the meeting is just automatically set up through Teams, so they get the link to log in, and then if you need to screen share with them to kind of help see what they're looking at or show them something. So it's been great. Crystal had asked me to talk about what the wouldn't you know, I closed that window. Give me just 1 second. Some information on high school counselor what the outreach training team has been doing. And since we did talk a lot today about some of those resources, so I'm going to
Do I
pull
need to
this
stop?
up. Nope, I killed your sharing. So can you all
All
see
right,
that?
there you go.
Okay.
Perfect. Yep.
So out on the CASPA website, if you go under high school resources and then counselor training, it will bring you up to this page that's going to show the sessions that they've already offered as well as the upcoming sessions. I do highly recommend watching the recordings. Danielle and Leah did a great job on Financial Aid 101. And Danielle, if you kind of want to take it and talk a little bit more about what you guys have done and what resources are available for the counselors.
Yeah, so Leah and I presented to the counselors on 2 different days, 2 different mornings, to different groups each time. I think we had 70 to 80 logged in during each training session, so that was awesome. And we just went over changes in the FAFSA, which there weren't many, just the question about the Schedule 1 was the biggest change. We talked about a few kind of special circs, but we really kind of promoted the session coming up on November 18th, I believe, is our panel for special circ for them to log in and actually get really detailed questions answered about their student situation. We talked about a little bit about types of aid, but didn't go into a huge amount of detail because Linda Oldham Burns with K-Board did a scholarship session along with some other folks. And then we're doing another session in February as well, Financial Aid 102. But overall, it was a pretty great session. Everyone was pretty silent on Zoom. We didn't get a lot of questions like we do when we're in person, but overall, I think the feedback was good. So what we did this year was we split up items that cause a lot of questions amongst the high school counselor group, and we made them their own sessions so that people can kind of tailor their training to maybe what they want to learn more about versus going to the same training every year. I think that's good for all of the seasoned professionals who do this every year. This gives a little bit more specialized training for them if they've been doing this for a long time. And I didn't attend the scholarship session, so I can't talk about that one. But for the PJ session, we're going to allow them to submit their questions in advance. So the panel will have the opportunity to read through all of those questions before the sessions, and we'll go over each of their scenarios. It started as one session, but we made it into 2 because of the amazing response that we got from people wanting to do this session. And it's easier to do a PJ panel like that if there are fewer participants, I think. So I think they limited it to 50 something. Darcy, correct me if I'm wrong. But the sessions are a little smaller to give that opportunity for questions. And then there's going to be a session just on financial literacy that Leticia Gradington at KU and Ivory Smith at JCCC are going to present. Leticia runs student money management services at KU, and Ivory is Johnson County Community College's default prevention coordinator. So she deals mostly with default and all of that fun stuff. And then in February, I'm going to be presenting with Courtney Lockhart from WSU on Financial Aid 102. And I might be soliciting some things from people in the group. We like to have different types of financial aid offers to show the students and show the counselors on what exactly does a financial aid offer look like. And I like to get a really nice representation of those offers from private schools, 2-year schools, 4-year publics, 4-year privates. So I might be reaching out to some of you to collect some of that kind of award letters to show students. And we really talk about college cost and choosing a college and what kind of aid you might actually be able to get in that session. So it's exciting.
And I
Good
don't,
stuff.
sorry, I don't know if Whitney intends to record the 2 unique situation
Yes.
sessions. Okay,
They'll be
but
recorded.
okay, do know that after it's the session has happened, you can come out at any time and watch the presentations. So if you aren't able to attend, I know we haven't advertised this to CASPA membership much this year just because we wanted to make sure that our high school counselors had the opportunity, and we had some spacing limitations with our Zoom license. So, but great job to the outreach training team. They've done amazing getting this all coordinated this year.
Thanks, guys. I mostly wanted to have Darcy show this and share this just to, I know a lot of you have contacts with different high school counselors, especially if there's any new ones in your area that aren't aware of all the resources that we provide. Make sure you're getting in touch with those high school counselors and letting them know that CASPA is a thing and that we have these sort of resources for them. So they're awesome resources. I'm going to try to share my screen again. Bear with me. There we go. All right. And we had a little bit of discussion in the chat still regarding Microsoft Teams. So if that's something you're interested in, do follow along. And we can definitely bring that to the table and talk about it more if you guys would like to. So speak up if you would. But they were talking about the subscription of the Microsoft Teams and if students need it or not. Darcy indicated that students don't have to have the Teams installed. They can just use a web browser. And then Melinda shared the financial aid toolkit for high school counselors, the link out there. All right, I'm gonna see if we have any other topics. I have a couple other things to go over quickly, but I wanna see if we have any other topics out there before we move on to those topics. If something comes to mind, do let me know. Raise your hand or put it in chat. We have a really tight game here in overtime, and I think that we probably need to call New York to get a clarification on, you know, one of our calls or a few of our calls. So I'm going to call in our NASPA chair, Brenda Hicks, just to say hello. She can put on her NASPA chair hat for a minute and take off her Southwestern hat for just a second. If you want to say hello real fast, Brenda.
Well, I'm gonna, and so I've got my two screens going here. So hang on just a second. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for letting me lurk in the background, guys. I appreciate that. As NASFA chair, you know, I'm representing every college in the United States. And so it's good to hear what's on the mind of community college people also. And we're certainly working on, you know, making sure all voices are represented at the table at the national level. Thanks to NASFA or CASFA also for putting these on, and the professional training team, you guys and Darcy. These are so important, these kind of events, when we are all unable to see each other in person. I think it's super important for groups like this to get together and just connect, because there are people out there who need these events. I am one of them who need these events to just know that I'm not the only person out here struggling with a situation or a problem. And it's certainly nice to hear from colleagues that are also struggling and doing the same things. I would encourage you guys to do this more regularly, often, frequently, get involved. There are things at the national level you can get involved on this. The Blue Icon group, I think, does those chats. I don't know if you've seen that recently, but after the FSA conference, they're going to do a recap every day of how people received what happened that day at the FSA conference. I think the signing up is free, and they've got different, you know, signups for different affinity groups. So I would just recommend and encourage you all to just do those when you can. But it's been great, and thanks so much. I'm proud to be from a state where, you know, we get together and we talk about PJ details. This is great. It's awesome. You guys are wonderful, and you rock. Don't ever let anybody tell you different.
Thanks, Brenda. We think you rock. There you have it. I mean, I would say that to be proud of not only Brenda, but proud of your state, because we are looked upon as one of the states that has a great thing going with CASPA. So thank you all for participating. That's a big thing too. I do have another what we'll call special guests. And I wish I would have thought of this earlier, because I would have totally said, Diane, this is your cue, by the way. I would have totally said, and here to sing the Star Spangled Banner from the Kansas Board of Regents is Diane Lindeman. But now she got out of having to sing, so I guess she'll just give us a quick chat.
Well, you're going to be glad that you didn't get to hear me sing. I think would have been pretty bad. Yeah, I appreciate being able to talk with you just briefly, since we didn't get a chance to connect at the conference in the spring. I sure hope that we are able to this coming spring. Just a couple of quick things. It seems that the original budget shortfall that the state was projecting was 1.5 billion, and now they have adjusted that to 153 million. So it's kind of like Austin Powers math or something. I always think about 1 million, when it's a billion. So it's, I don't know what caused it so much to be so uncertain. One idea might be tax collections, since they extended the tax deadline into July this year, that kind of thing. There were 4 different financial aid programs that were actually up for consideration during this most recent legislative session. And one did pass through, but was not funded. And then the governor cut it out of the budget. And it's the one that I really think for certain will come back again. And it might be something that would be helpful to the community colleges. And it's called the Kansas Promise Act. And you've heard of Promise Acts that other states are doing. And it's the kind of thing that would help pay for tuition fees, books, that kind of thing. But this particular program, it seemed to go through a lot of adjustments through the session, and I don't know what will happen if it does come back up and if there's a lot of changes. I think one of the reasons it might come up is because the legislator who is championing it is one who is pretty vocal and outspoken in the session, and so I think she'll really push it. But it would had some kind of quirky rules, I guess you might call it, of the game. And those were like, they were requiring some community college service. It was a service obligation, so you had to pay it back if you didn't follow through. And these are things that we were trying to get pulled out of there because I think they were pretty onerous. But I don't know if we have any better luck this spring if it comes back again and us trying to tighten down some of this. But anyway, you might look for that, because I think there are at least some people thinking about the fact that colleges are getting too expensive and that students need help, and particularly at this time. And then I had a question of the group yesterday, and I wouldn't mind asking it to you all too, just out of your working with students this year for this coming year and looking at students for next year. As you know, we have the Kansas State Scholarship, which is a scholarship that has a formula that has the ACT and GPA that is goes into a formula and determines an index score. And we're concerned about students being able to take the ACT, or students who haven't taken it at all. It may be more of a concern for a year from now than it might be for the group that we've coming in right now. It's hard to say. But have you run into situations where you're finding students talk about the fact that they haven't been able to take the ACT? Or maybe that doesn't even matter, I don't know. But I was curious about any kind of things that you're hearing about that.
We have had a few people say that they haven't taken it yet. A lot of people are saying they're taking in December. But I don't know. I'm guessing, I think, and I don't know this for sure, so somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that they're going to keep them open as long as they can, as far as all the test dates go. But I've had a lot of people come into my office and say they haven't taken it yet, but they're planning to.
Okay. Yeah, we're just concerned about how we might have to readjust the scholarship program if it becomes impossible for students to take at the ACT. And it might be something we certainly have to consider anyway, because a lot of schools are going test optional or not using the test to determine scholarship eligibility anyway. But so I'm just trying to get, feedback from people about what they're hearing out there. That's about all I have. If somebody has something else to add about that.
I was just going to let you know that at Garden City Community College, we did get away from using an ACT test for scholarship purposes, and we're strictly going off a high school GPA. I don't know if that feedback helps you, but we
Yeah, it's
did, you know, at a community college level, we weren't using the ACT scores that much, and we can qualify them off of the GPA. So.
Okay.
We're doing the same thing at KCKCC. We rarely use an ACT score for our scholarships. We more look at the AccuPlacer scores and their GPA.
Okay.
At Heston, we are still using the scores. A lot of like our aviation, our nursing definitely want a specific score. So just we are.
Okay.
Crystal, we can't hear you again.
Because I should keep putting myself on mute. I'm laughing at myself too. That's what's embarrassing. I said, if anyone else has any ACT feedback for Diane, feel free to chime in or put it in the chat. She'll see that. And I said, I laughed because I told Diane she's going to have to sing next time. And then when she didn't react, I was like, huh. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through. So we're going to wrap up a few minutes early. I do want to, again, apologize for the couple-minute late start. Thanks to technology, you know, I don't even know what happened. I was hanging out in the Zoom room all by myself for 25 minutes before time. And then when it came time, nobody was joining me. So I restarted the Zoom meeting and you all were there. It was great. And thank you, Darcy, for coming on as CASPA president and saying hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you to all of you for participating. I really appreciate the feedback on the comments and the chat and unmuting yourself and just talking. It makes it a lot easier for the moderator to get through these things if people start talking along with them. And I think that is it. I'm going to go to our last slide. Home team wins. The financial aid administrators win again, 84-28. There's our survey link, and I'm going to put it in the chat also, so you can quickly click on it from there and open it right now and do that survey super quickly. The survey is for the Professional Development Committee to know what topics and what things interest you, how we did today, et cetera. So we really do need your feedback so that we make sure we're touching on the points that the membership wants for the future professional development events coming up in the spring. Professional Development Committee is listed, so thanks to all of them for contributing and getting these things off the ground and running. And thank all of you. Thank the panelists, Melinda, Mary, Dory. Round of applause. We appreciate you taking the lead here. And if anyone has any questions, I'm going to hang around for just a little bit if there's anything I can be of assistance of. Otherwise, go have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Huge shout out to Robin for leading this team, and Crystal, thank you for being our referee and keeping us in line today.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.